Okay, so my name is Terri Summey. Today I'm going to just kind of talk about the basics of citations, and we're going to go through and look at those, and then we do have a session coming up in 2 weeks that'll go through APA style. So go ahead and help yourself to the handouts there. There we go. You're welcome. So today we're just going to kind of hit some of the basics, and I'm going to show you some of the tools that we have available that can help you out, and tell you a little bit how I use the tools when I'm working on research or looking at the different citations. So first question is, why should we cite? Why is it important for us to do citations? Do you guys have thoughts?
To avoid plagiarism, I think, is the biggest one.
That's one of them, yeah, to avoid plagiarism. How else? Why else? Any other thoughts?
To give credit where it's due.
Give credit where it's due. Those are kind of the same, yeah.
To make others believe what we are saying.
For credibility. So yeah, you guys are good. So yeah, giving credit where credit is due so that we can let people know that we use some of their ideas and that the ideas are not just not originally ours. So we're giving them credit for their original ideas. You're right, we avoid plagiarism. If we are crediting other people, we're letting them know that we're not taking their ideas without credit. But yeah, your credibility as a researcher to say, I did the due diligence on this. I worked, these are the resources that I looked at to be able to write this paper or write this research or write this thesis or dissertation, so that you showed what you went out and looked at. So that's very important. And then it also provides a research trail so that when somebody is reading your work, they can go through, see the resources that you used, and that gives you a trail. I know I use it when I'm doing my own research. There's a couple things that I always do. So when I'm doing my own research, one of the things that I will do is if I have a really good article, I will go through and I will look at the citations for that article, because that's very important to be able to see who they cited. Another thing that I will do is I will use Google Scholar. Google Scholar has a cited by feature. And I'll go ahead and just kind of jump out just briefly. With that cited by feature, you can go through and you can see who they cited. So I'll just do a quick search. So like this article right here is one of the, from 1996, is emotional intelligence, the identification of emotion, is like one of the top authors in the field. And you can see that this is one of a seminal work in the field because it's been cited by 5,547 other people. And so if I find a really good article or book or resource that I'm using in my research, I will plug a lot of times that title. I will search it in Google Scholar, and then I will look at this cited by feature. So that's giving me that research trail. That's giving me more information. Now, I don't know if I want to look at 5,547 articles, but it does give me a chance to go in there. So I can click on this cited by, and it will give me all of those different resources. This one is one of the top ones in that field. And then this is where my research is. And so I know these two names, they're top in the field. This article has been cited by 8,321 people. That tells me that it's a seminal article in the area, and it can give me some other resources that I can look at. And then I can also search within the results. So let's say like I'm interested in, if I go here, I'm interested in customer service. I can then search within the results, and then I can add customer service, search that. Still got a lot, but I'm down to 1,000. So I cut, I went from 8,000 to 1,000, so I lost 7,000 articles. I could figure out another area that I might want to put in there. maybe quality or something else, and that helps us. So that's that research trail that I think is very important, especially when you're trying to increase the amount of resources that you have that you're using, is to be able to, not only for you to provide to somebody else, but for you to use as you're looking at other resources. So when should we type? Well, when you are taking direct quotations or words from a resource, when you are using the words that somebody else used, more than one word, but when you're using that, you should cite. You should say, and use the quotations, or you use the block quotations to say, these are not my words. These are somebody else's words. The facts unknown to your audience. So if I'm writing a paper and I make the comment, George Washington was the first president of the United States. That's a fact that pretty much, I would say worldwide, maybe everybody knows, at least in the United States. So if I'm talking in the United States and I make that statement, I probably don't need a citation to cite that, because that is a fact. That is something that people know. The world is round. You know, there's different facts depending on who your audience is, that if you say those facts, then they're true. But if you're dealing with some things that maybe you know as a fact, but your audience may not be as aware of that, then you probably should cite it. If you are summarizing or paraphrasing, so you've read some articles, you've gotten some ideas out of that, and you're you're writing it in your own words, but you're saying, this is this concept, this is how it developed, whatever. It's good to credit where it's coming from. Where did those ideas come from? Who put them together? And so a lot of times, what I've been doing is like at the end of a paragraph, when I'm talking about a concept, then I'll put in all the authors and the articles that I got those ideas from. And so when you're summarizing or paraphrasing, anytime you use somebody else's ideas that are not your own. For example, right now I'm working on a paper on embedded librarianship. And so that's a concept that I didn't come up with, somebody else came up with. It's being talked about in our field, so lots of people know about it. But when I write about that, I'm going to credit some of those earlier sources, because they're the ones that have defined it and come up with that definition. I didn't come up with it. So even though it's a concept that we're talking a lot about, it's a concept that we use, because it was somebody else's original wording and idea, then I will credit them. And I say err on the side of caution. If you're not sure, it's better to credit than to not credit. So if you have a question, you're not sure if you should put in the citations, then I would go ahead and do it. Now, what style should you use? And that gets into, there's lots of different styles out there. Probably a couple of the more familiar ones are APA and MLA. I know that they use Turabian sometimes. That's what they used when I was in graduate school. There's also like the Chicago Manual of Style. I work with people in the health phys ed area, and so they use the American Medical Association style. So there's a lot of different styles out there. A lot of times it's going to depend on what is your discipline. Which area are you writing in? So if you're a psychology major, use APA, American Psychological Association style. If you're in library science, or SLIM, you would use APA. If you're in the teacher's college, like in instructional design, they use APA. If you're more in like the arts and humanities, a lot of times, the literature, history, or literature, they'll use MLA. History, a lot of times will use Chicago, because they use the footnotes at the bottom, and so they like that. So it just really depends on what discipline you're in. Sometimes it's instructor preference. So if you're writing a paper for a class, It may be your school, if you're writing a thesis or dissertation. Find out what they're saying, what they would like you to use, because they'll tell you which style they want you to use. Looking at what are the most commons, and those are the ones that I kind of talked about. The Turabian, the APA style, MLA, Chicago, AMA, those are the ones that are most commonly used on our campus. However, sometimes I work with biology, and sometimes instructor preference in biology, they use a style that is used in the journals. So for example, if I'm writing an article for a particular journal, they may not use APA or MLA or Chicago. The journal might have its own style that they want you to use. And so a lot of times what I want to do to find out what that style is, and what I do with the biology students, is I'll go to that journal website, and there's usually instructions for authors, and a lot of times in those instructions for authors, they'll tell you what style they want to use. So right now I'm writing a paper that's going to be in a proceedings. They tell me what style they want me to use, and it may be their own style, and they'll usually give me examples on how they want me to do it. If they want me to use one of these common ones, they'll tell me that too. So you may have to look at that particular journal in that discipline to see what style they use. All right, so you're writing a citation. What are the main things that we put in a citation? If you have a citation, author is one. The date, publication date, the title. Yeah, so we have particular things. We have the author, the publication date usually, the title, and then the publishing information if it's a book. If it's a journal, we'll have the journal name. So looking at that, so there's a variety of things that go into there. And then further along, we're going to talk about the different styles. So where can you find information on how you do this? One of the things are in print manuals. And we try to purchase and have in the library the print manuals. I know if you are writing a thesis, you might want to, and you need to use APA, you might want to buy a print manual so that you have it and you can always look at it. And I tell you, I use APA all the time, but I'm always checking that manual to see if I'm right. Because not only does it give me my citations, it tells me how the paper is supposed to be formatted, it tells me how to do graphs in there and graphics, it tells me how to do appendices. So it gives me a lot of information. It even tells me I'm writing. So I probably should read it cover to cover. I haven't yet. But it talks about with word usage, how you should do that. So it gives you a lot of good tips on how you should write in that style. There's some online resources for the manuals. I've given you on one of the sheets that I gave you with the Cite It Right and the red box at the top, I've given you some web addresses that you can go to. So like MLA and APA, they have online sites that you can go to, and you can ask questions because they cannot cover every instance in their style manuals. And with technology, different sources of information are coming out all the time. And so I think keeping up with that sometimes is difficult. So they do have where you can ask questions, or they do have information on where you can look up for like the electronic citations. I know they provide some of that there. One place that I use a lot is the OWL, the online writing lab from Purdue University. And I've given you the URL for that. A lot of times what I will do is I will just jump in and Google OWL. When I do that, I do get pictures of owls, but I also get the Purdue Online Writing site comes up on top. And they've got some really good information here. They talk about like general writing, subject-specific writing, but down here, and they've got some video casts, but down here they have MLA guide and APA guide. So let's say I want to do APA, because something else that they have there is they actually have an APA overview and workshop that has PowerPoints that you can walk through, provide some really good information. So it talks about, what is the workshop. It says what is the style, why should you use it, who should use it, type of papers. Gives you lots of good information there. They also have the APA guide, the formatting and style guide, that is divided up too. So they give you the general format here, but over in the side they talk about in-text citations. They talk about footnotes. They talk about reference lists. And then they give you lots of examples. They give you a type of paper. They give you some stylistics, some basics, headings. So they really go through, and here's that PowerPoint, really go through a lot of good information that you can use when you're looking it up and when you're using this. So I go to this all the time, just because it really gives me a lot of good information. So if I don't remember, how do I do in-text citations in APA? If I click on this, it tells me that. So here's the in-text citations. And then if I want to know about, and then it talks about short quotations. And then if I want to know some examples, it tells me how to deal with authors. So a work by 2 authors, a work by 3 to 5 authors. And so that's the one I was forgetting. At what point do I say at all? Do I do it with 3 authors? Do I do it with 4 authors? So I had to look it up to see if it's just 1 or 2 authors. Then I put both names in there all the time. If it's 3 or more authors, the first time I go there and I put in all the names. Every time I cite it after that, I use the names, and then I use ETAL period at all. And it tells me how to do it. And then it says 6 or more authors, you use the first name followed by et al. So when you get to 6 or more authors, you don't have to do any of that. It provides more. So all of this really does some really good resources that you can use to go look up this information. All right, let me jump back here. The other thing are ESU LibGuides. We've created a bunch of library guides that you can use to find some of those. Same thing. We also provide in those library guides some information and some examples. So if I go here to our library website and I click on research guides, this is where you can search all the research guides that we have. And no, we don't need help at the moment. So if I want to search the guides, I can search by APA. And it will say, here we have an APA citation style help guide. And it also gives other guides where APA shows up. Or let's say I want to know about MLA. I can do the same thing. Search MLA, and we have a couple guides that show up. So we are creating guides that go with that. I know we've got APA and MLA. We've not done a lot of the others. However, we can help people through that. So that would be the other resource that I didn't put on the list, is Ask a Librarian or Ask the Writing Center. The Writing Center works a lot with MLA because they come out of the English department. They're a good resource to use. For APA, you can ask the librarians at the desk because we'll help you with that, because those are something that we work with. They have psychology tutoring, but I haven't asked how much they know about the style manuals. Be a good question. But there's a lot of other places that you can go through to get or create your citations. Now, the one caveat that I'm going to tell you on a lot of these sources is you need to check what you're getting. Because I tell students you can copy and paste this into your bibliography, but you need to check it because sometimes they make mistakes. So they're not always right. So let's go through and look at some of these. All right. So let's go. I'll just start with WMS because this is our catalog, our discovery search right here. I'm going to stick with my topic. So do a search on that. It brings up books and resources. We're searching libraries worldwide. If I want to just go Emporia State, I can, but I'm going to stick with this. So let's say this is one of the books I have. And I want to know about a citation for that. Over here, there's a drop-down menu. If I click on that, I can email the record to myself, or I can cite the record. I can also get a link to that record, but I want to cite it. So if I click on Cite Record, it brings up a box and says, format a citation, APA MLA Chicago. I'll go ahead and pick APA. And so there it formats the citation for me. And this one is right. As I said, I look at them quickly just to see if they're correct. But this one is correct in terms of how they've cited it. But it's always good to check. So if I wanted to use this one, I could copy it and paste it into my resource. So what I did was I went to over here to this arrow thing, clicked on that, and just clicked on Cite Record, and then picked the type. So there's the MLA citation. Or if I wanted Chicago, it provides that for me. And see, it does tell you citations are based on reference standards. The formatting rules can vary. You're better off checking, is kind of what that says down there. All right. So another thing that you can use, within a lot of our databases, there's citations provided. So like in EBSCO, if I want to go, if I do search and I find a record that I like, and I will just pick one, since I'm not really doing a search. Over here on the side, there's options to print, email, save, and then cite. So if I click on that cite option, once again, it opens up a box. This one gives me a whole lot more. So I've got a lot of choices here, but if I want the APA one, it gives it to me right here. Now I don't know if you can see this, but there's a problem with this one. Anyone, can you guys see it a little bit, or I could make it a little bigger? Anyone know what the problem on this one is? Why it's not totally correct? What?
It's not capital letters.
The capital letters.
Oh.
Yeah. So we've got right here on the last name, only the first initial is capitalized. Here, same thing. On the title of an article, only the first letter of that title is capitalized, or if there were any proper nouns in there. So if it said like United States or like China as a word in there, that would be a proper noun, so then that would be capitalized. So yeah, so this is a really good example. Everything else is right in this, except for this. These should not all be capitalized, and this should not all be capitalized. So that's why really looking at those, and they have the same just right here. Pay special attention to personal names, capitalization, and dates. Always consult your library resources for exact formatting. So once again, I could copy and paste that, but I would need to make changes to it so that it would be correct. Because the way it's typed out here, it's not totally right. Okay, let me go to another database. We'll check all of them, see which ones are right and which ones aren't. I go to PsycInfo because I know that's in a different. It's a different type of a brand. There we go. Okay, I'm going to do the same search. I'm not very creative today on searching. Okay, so I find a lot of articles, and I'm just going to go once again to the very first one. And it provides the information, and over here is where the citations are. So if I click on Cite there, it brings up the citation, and it's got it in APA. Okay, this one, it does have an order number. I'm not sure you need to do that. And then it says it's available from PsycInfo, retrieved from. You don't have to put the retrieve from, and you could, if you didn't want to, you wouldn't necessarily have to have that if you wanted to cite it as a print document. A lot of times, I will cite most of these. If I get the PDFs, I will cite them as a print document and have it look like that. But other than that, this has, that name's right, the date's right, the capitalization is right because you capitalize the first letter, and then you if there's a colon, you capitalize the first letter after that colon, and then any proper names. So yeah, so that's going to be right. And then if I want to change citation styles, same thing. I can pick the citation style that I want to use, and it changes it and fixes, it makes the changes there. Now, this one, I'm wondering, let me look. Okay, this one looks like it's a thesis. Let me go find an article. Here's one that's an article. Okay, so yeah, that looks right. I'll go back up to APA. So yeah, so we've got the author's names right, the date, and then the title of the article, title of the journal. This is then in italics, and then they go straight up and down for the the volume is in italics, and then they go straight up and down for the number. Why they decided to do that, I cannot explain it. I would have kept it all the same. I would have put it all in italics or made it all straight up and down, and then you have the page numbers. So at that point, you could stop off. Something else that a lot of times will go after this, and it's not including that, is a DOI, which is a digital object identifier. Every resource that has a digital copy of it usually has those digital object identifiers, and they will come after the page numbers, where you do DOI colon, and then you put in that digital object identifier. A lot of times you'll find that information in the article. It may be in the, yeah, I'm not seeing it here. In the article, it might be in the PDF. It's sometimes in the record. So the other thing about this resource is you can get to the references too for that article. So that's that building on, and a lot of times this one says over here that it's cited by 5 documents with shared reference, 8,000, and then it gives you 100. This article has 121 references, which is a lot of references for an article. Yeah, so I guess it's like, I don't know, 17, 18 pages. That's a lot of references for that. That size of an article. They did a lot of reading when they wrote. Okay. Let me go back. The other place that you can go is Google Scholar. Go back to my search there. Google Scholar also has citations. And sometimes if it's really long, it might be in this more section, but like here for this first one where it says Cite, if I click on Cite, it pulls up the different citations styles, and once again, I can look at it. So I've got the authors, the year, title of the article, title of the journal, and so this is correct because it provides all of that information for me. And so I've got that here where I can get that. So once again, I can copy and paste it, or if I'm using like EndNote or RefWorks or some of these, I can download it into there, depending on which one I might be using. So there's lots of different places, trying to see if I hit all of them that I wanted to hit in terms of how you can do that. Another feature that I use is in Word. When I am writing a document, in Word, this has a references feature too. And so by clicking on references, I get into that. It will do endnotes, footnotes there, but it also allows me to go through and create my bibliography as I'm working. And if I'm kind of working on the same computer, it will save those from project to project. So in here, if I click on Manage Sources, it brings up a form, and I can go through and I can add a new source. So I've not been using this computer, so it doesn't have any sources listed here. But I could click on New Source if I was starting to write, and then I can select what type of source it is. So if it is, it gives me lots of choices. Obviously the ones I use the most are book section, and journal article are the ones that I use a lot. But it has article in a magazine, conference proceedings, reports, web pages, website, document from a website, electronic source, art, performance, interviews, cases, miscellaneous. Lots of different choices there. And then if I pick one, so let's say I want to do a book, it gives me this short form that I can fill out, but it may not have all the information that I want to include. Especially what I notice is on books are usually okay. What I notice it the most on are journal articles, because it asks for the author, the title, the journal name, the year, and the pages. But it's not asking for the volume number, it's not asking for the issue number, and it's not asking for the DOI. But this little box here where it says show all bibliography fields, if I click on that, that will then show me that the ones it originally asked for are the ones with asterisks. So it won't accept it unless I put that information in there. However, I can go down here and I can add in the volume number, the issue number. And then if I go, it's the very last thing on here. If I go down to the bottom, I can add in the DOI. Or if I got it out of a database, I can add in the database, what day I got it, the URL. So I can add in more information on those fields if I want to. I just have to click on that show all bibliography fields. And then when I do that, let me go ahead and we'll just do one. And I'm just going to make it up. Okay, so I just made up a bunch of stuff. you'll notice as I was typing in, or you may not notice, this changes down here now. That changes with whatever I typed in as my author. So it kind of tags it. And then if I click OK, once I click OK, in this box it gives me a preview. So it tells me how to do an in-text citation or how an in-text citation would look. And then it tells me what the bibliography entry would look. And since I picked APA, that's what it's giving me as. So it provides that as I'm doing that. So if I'm going along, I'm going to close it, it saves it, and I'm writing my paper. So I am writing my paper and trying to finish it. And I want to cite this, I can go up here and click on Insert Citation, and it will give me a list of all the citations that I've already done. Now maybe it's I used a work that's not listed there. I can add a new source from here. But if I want to put that one in, I can click on that, click Add, and see, it added my in-text citation. It's already in there ready to go. It also, let's say I use the name in typing it. So I said over here, I said according to author, I am writing to get it finished. So at this point, if I say according to author, then I want to put my in-text citation there for APA. So if I do that, I don't want it here at the end, but I want to put it in here. So I can insert citation, but I only want the year there because I've already put the name there. So if I'm at the end without the name, I want it at the end, and I want the author and the year. But if I want it here, I only need that year. So I can go through and I can edit my citation, and I can say don't show the author, don't show the title, just show the year. So I suppress the author, suppress the title, click OK, and now I just have the year. Now, let's say this is a quotation. So at the end of the quotation, I want to tell them what page I got the quotation from, right? So, but I've already got the author here, I've got the date here. I don't need those at the end, but I can still do insert citation. And then I could go here, edit citation, put in the page number, suppress everything else, click OK, and you see what that did? It put in the page number. So it's used it, it's told me that it's used it, so I know now when I'm done, if I want to create my bibliography, it gives me the style, I can add in my bibliography. And there it adds in my citation. Or it adds in my bibliography. So if I'm all done writing my paper, I can then put that at the end. So that's another tool that you can use when if you're writing a paper in Word, that it can help build your citation list, build your bibliography, and have it all there ready to go. And then if I need to make edits to it, I can go ahead and I can click on this and I can make changes, or I can add in some other ones. And you'll see on my managed sources, it put a check mark there because it knows that I used that one. So it tells me which ones I've already included. I've discovered you can also, because if I'm using several resources, I can nest them in there, which gets a little more technical. So if I needed to add a second one here, I could. But what I've discovered is that it puts it at the end. It doesn't always put it where I want it to be. So if I need them out, because I need them alphabetical, then I usually have to think alphabetically and maybe go back and fix them. And I haven't looked at that to figure out if there's a way for it to automatically fix them. But this is just a kind of a nice tool that you can use. The other tools I know that students will use. Any questions over this? Because I just gave you a brief. Okay. And if you guys ever have questions on anything that I talk about, and you want to come see me later, we can look at it and go into it more depth, and I can help somebody with it. Okay, so I'm not going to save this. All right. The other thing is, I know a lot of students will use Citation Machine, which is another way, and you can generate, you plug in the information, you choose your style. So let's say I want to use APA. It brings up, I can actually, if it's a book or a journal article, newspaper, website, journal article, I can put in the name of the title of that. Let's go with the book. And if I find the book in there, let's say it's the second one I want, select it. It automatically fills in the form, and then I can create my citation. If you can't find it in there, so there's my citation. If I can't find it in there, then I can go in, and so I can copy and paste this. If I can't find it, I can just go in and I can fill out the form myself. So I can do this manual entry mode, go in there, and then I can go in and fill in each one of the different places. Down at the bottom, I select, create citation, and it'll create the citation for me. And this will do it in APA, MLA, and Chicago style. Last thing I kind of want to hit, talk about is tools for collecting and organizing and citing resources. These are just some tools that are out there that you can use. Zotero, EndNote, and Mendeley. And what they allow you to do is to create and organize your citations. So I'm probably a little paranoid with my citations for my dissertation. I'm using Zotero, I'm using Word, and I've also got a card, a little file card with paper cards in it. So I don't want to lose anything. So I have lots of ways that I'm keeping track of it. But like with Zotero, it provides me, it's a free account. I can go in, I can organize all my resources, I can create a bibliography with them. I'll go ahead and log in real quickly. So you can see what I've done over here. This is mine. I've got my library over here. I've got my dissertation research, which is what I'm writing right now. I've got when I was taking my PhD classes. I've got sites there. Research and scholarship, work projects. So it's a librarian's dream because you can organize to your heart's content. Under research and scholarship, I've got a health book project I was working on, LibGuides assessment, library instructional design partnerships. I've got some work projects, so I can go through. I've got gingerbread men books for the preschool. I keep track in there. Information literacy, the iPad initiative. I keep a lot of this in there because anywhere I have an internet connection, including my phone, I can get to this and see what I'm using. So if I go in for like my dissertation research, these are all the sources that I put in there so far. And I could go through with these and I could select all if I wanted to. And then I could take the sources and I can create a bibliography. And so it takes all the sources that I've loaded in there and it creates that bibliography for me that I could then copy and paste that into my Word document. To enter something, basically over here, there's this plus sign that says create item. When I click on that, I can create lots of choices. So if I want a journal article, I can create journal article, and then it brings up the form that I need to fill out. And I can enter as many things as I need to enter to make this work. The other thing that I can do, and let me get back to one of my citations. The other thing I've been doing is on some of these, I can add the PDF to it, and so that's saved out there, so I can always get back to that article. I can also attach a note. So on my note cards, I've been writing notes down. I can go in here and I can see what my notes are, and so I can go in and look at my notes. So it gives me a lot of good information about the article, and I can also, once again, I can hashtag it. So like I would hashtag, a Facebook post, or I would hashtag a tweet on my Twitter account. I can also hashtag it here. And so if I want to know all of the articles that I have on relationship marketing, if I click on relationship marketing, it will pull up the articles that I have on that. Or if I want to know what articles I found on academic libraries, it will pull all the articles that I have up on that. So whatever tags I'm using, and I tried to stay consistent, it'll go out and find those articles for me. Mendeley works pretty similar to this. It's also a free site that's available out at mendeley.com. And then EndNote, we have it a little differently. It comes through a couple of our databases. It comes through Web of Science, and so it's through Medline and Biological Abstracts. But by getting into those databases, so if I go into the Biological Abstracts database, it allows me to get into EndNote here. And you can say from biology, but that's obviously not where my research is. And so it doesn't do me any good to say from there. However, I could sign in to EndNote with my email address and my password, and I could use it like I use the other resources. I just use Zotero because it's just so easy for me to get to. The only problems I've had with it, if you use a Mac, I've had issues with being able to save the notes and the PDFs to it. Is the biggest problem I've had, and I haven't figured out how to get past that. I need to ask on that. All right. So we talked a little bit about APA, MLA. Last name, first initials, year of publication for a journal article, title of the article, title of the journal, volume numbers, and pages. MLA, this is kind of so you can see the difference. So in APA, the year is the second thing. In MLA, the year is towards the back, towards the end. In APA, you just use the first initials, first and middle initials. In MLA, use the whole name. In APA, just put the title in there. MLA, you use capitalization, and you put in the quotations. So just, some big differences between the two. Books, same type of things. Capitalization, where the year of publication is. Then they also include a medium of publication. So if it's an online book, I would put online. If it's a print book, I put print. And then these are in your handouts. I've just provided some examples of citations. So this one is a book citation. You can kind of see the differences. And this one's a journal article citation. And then I show you how you do in-text citations. So with APA, if you use the name, you say according to Jones, and then you do the year. If you don't use the name in the text, then you put the year, the date, and the page at the end. MLA, you just use the page, and then if you use the name in it, otherwise you do the name and just page without the date. They just APA uses name date. MLA just uses name page. Okay, so we're going to practice. We're going to do a quiz. All right. So for this citation, is it a journal article, a book, or a book chapter? Journal article. MLA or APA? APA. Why? The year is up here. And it just uses the initial. Okay. You're correct. Okay? This one. Journal article, book, or book chapter?
Book.
Book? APA, MLA? MLA book, okay. You are absolutely correct. All right, this one. Journal article, book, book chapter. Journal article? Yeah, because, and it says the word journal there, so that kind of helps. APA, MLA? MLA, because you've got the full names and you have the date towards the end. So we have another journal article. It's not a very big quiz. All right, this one, question 4. Journal article, book, book chapter. Say it louder, and you're right. Book chapter, ALA or APA, MLA? MLA. Yeah, because it says print, it has the year there, has the full name, and it's a book chapter because it gives you the name of the book and the chapter there. This one. Journal article, book, book chapter. Book? APA, MLA? APA book, all right? You're correct. Last one. APA, MLA? APA? Journal article, book, book chapter? Book chapter. Because it says in, and it gives you the author name, and then, or editor name, and then it gives you the title of the book. Correct. All right, so it's taking slow. Any questions? I went a little longer than I promised.
I got one question.
Okay.
When looking for like books and stuff, does Emporia State University associate with JSTOR?
We do. We don't necessarily have the JSTOR books, but something that you can do, because I'm assuming all of you guys are, working on comprehensive big projects. The nice thing that we do, and you do have my information, so this is my contact information, my phone, my email, and it's on the slides.
Because I went to JSTOR and it had Emporia State University on there, but it didn't let me.
Right.
I got some kind of error.
Okay, so we do have some of the JSTOR journal titles, and okay, so we do have some of the JSTOR journal titles. We don't necessarily have the JSTOR books.
Okay.
However, I was going to show you something here. My computer is moving really slow. When you search our discovery catalog, so that very first thing I went into from our main library page, and I'll get back there in a minute, We actually, because of the discovery tool that we have, or the catalog that we have, you can search books worldwide. So when you search it, it's going to search books worldwide or materials worldwide. It's also going to search a couple general databases. And so in doing that, it really expands what we have available to us. And I'm not sure why it's going so slow. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and do my search again, the one I've been doing. So when I search this, right over here it tells me that it's sorting everything by library first and then relevance. What that means is the things that Emporia State University owns are going to come up first, and then it's going to look at relevance. But it's searching libraries worldwide. So when I do emotional intelligence, I get 68,000, almost 69,000 results. If I go down here to a little further, it gives me the top 6 formats. So out of that, 54,000 of those are articles or chapters in resources. 10,000, almost 11,000 of those are books. Now, if I limit to Emporia State University, what we have here, that 69,000 goes to 15,000. Out of which, if I go down a little further, out of which 15,000 of those articles or chapters, 187 of those are books. So it really gives me a lot of things worldwide. So if I go back to that 68,000, which is way more than I really want to read, I will tell you that. I can just do it by relevance only. And if I do that, then some of these that we may not own are going to come up towards the top. We do have that one, and I know it because it has our location, and it says some available. But if I go down to this third one, we don't own this one because it doesn't tell me that we do. However, if I want it, I can click on this record, and it brings me into the full record, and I can request that item through interlibrary loan. So it really expands the way we can search materials, because we honestly, by doing this discovery search, you're searching worldwide. So we're searching resources all over the world to libraries that are members. So it really expands what we're doing. Obviously, I did a really broad search. If I went in here and I limited and I put in like "and customer service" or "and libraries" would be another one I could do. Now I'm down to 4,296 works. Once again, it's doing library relevance, so things that we own are going to be on top. If I switched it to just relevance, then it's going to pull some of the others up there. Does that answer your question? Yeah, so we don't have we do have a lot of the JSTOR journals, but we do not, I know we have not gotten into the books yet. We are looking at, we're hoping that we will do on a trial basis some ebooks coming up this fall still, and look at making some more ebooks available. Other questions? Okay, well, I want to thank you guys for coming. If you have questions later as you work through this stuff, my office is up on the 2nd floor of the library. You can always come by and see me, or you can call me or email me, and I will help you with the resources. You can also obviously ask any of the librarians at the desk too. Have a great evening.